Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of The Package Tourist, hosted by yours truly, the Package Tourist and the magical mystery tour called life, Matthew DiBiase. Tonight's guest is forensic genealogist and author Jacqueli Finley. Jacqueli is a forensic genealogist and is a member of the Association of Professional Genealogists. She has also been doing genealogical research on the Lee family of Virginia since 2004. She has also done genealogical projects for Ancestry and has been a genealogical blogger since December 2021. In March 2023, she published her first book, Parents of Colonel Richard Lee, Lees of Lost Virginia Lineages series. In January 2026, she released The Lee Surname, Y-DNA Projects, which was released as a refutation of certain Lee family DNA projects. And last month, she released Richard Henry Lee and the Lee Resolution. And tonight we will be discussing her latest release, Richard Henry Lee and the Lee Resolution, because today is a very special day in the history of the Lee family and also the United States in general. Jacqueli, welcome to the show. It's a great honor to have you back, and I'd like to start off by asking you, Jacqueli, would you please tell our listeners the significance of June 7th in the history of the Lee family and in American history overall?
Well, thank you, Matthew. I'm very glad to be here. And 250 years ago today, June 7th, 1776, is the day Richard Henry Lee introduced the resolution declaring that the colonies are and of right ought to be free and independent states. As I write in my book, his resolution was a catalyst for the American independence. This act set in motion the drafting and adoption of the Declaration of Independence.
Okay. What led Richard Henry Lee to prepare that immortal resolution?
Well, years of British political and economic pressure overreach convinced him that reconciliation was no longer a possibility. His classical education, Enlightenment influences, and long service in the House of Burgesses shaped his belief that liberty was a natural right. By 1776, he had become the revolutionary voice that the colonies needed. Okay.
Don't laugh. In the late 1980s, I remember reading an American Heritage issue devoted, the topic was, they asked various renowned authors of America and personages and historians, in their opinion, who was the most overrated and underrated American of all time. One historian, I forget his name, said that Thomas Jefferson was overrated because all he did was write the mere press release for what Richard Henry Lee, whom this historian considered to be underrated, had boldly and bravely proposed and resolved. Jacqueli, do you concur with that historian's view?
Well, Jefferson's writing was exceptional, but the structure and purpose of the Declaration came directly from Lee's resolution. As I noted in my book, the Declaration of Independence was the world's proclamation, but the Lee Resolution was its heartbeat. It's also worth noting that many historians believe Richard Henry Lee served as an early mentor to Jefferson, especially in matters of political philosophy and colonial rights. Their ideas were closely aligned, but both men, I feel, played essential but distinctive roles in shaping our nation.
Okay. Now, was Richard Henry Lee there during the debating of the resolution or the drafting of the document? Yes or no? Was he there?
Well, he got called away to Virginia because his wife became gravely ill.
Oh dear. So he missed out then, right? So that's why he was not on the committee that prepared the Declaration of Independence, and he wasn't there for the final vote, correct?
Well, he certainly would have served on the drafting committee, and Congress appointed the committee immediately after postponing the vote on his resolution. His sudden departure due to his wife's illness prevented his participation.
Yeah.
Whether he would have been chosen as a principal author is unknown, but his influence would have been significant.
Okay. So, what happened? What happened to his wife? Did she recover, or during this crisis, what happened to her?
Well, this is his second wife. She became gravely ill, but he returned about a month later after her illness. So she did recover, and then she passed away a few years later.
Oh, dear. Oh, it's sad. Did he ever, I forget, did he ever sign the Declaration of Independence? Did he or didn't he?
Well, he didn't sign the Declaration of Independence, but he signed several documents that month later on congressional documents related to the Declaration. And from what I understand, that he signed an embossed copy, not the original.
Okay. Let's talk about his life now, the years before the 1776. Where was he born and raised, Richard Henry Lee? Where was he born and raised?
Well, he was born at Stratford Hall in Westmoreland County, Virginia, on January 20th, 1732. And as I described Stratford Hall, it was a cradle of influence for generations of Lees.
Okay, 1732. I think that's the same year George Washington was born, if I'm not mistaken. So basically, he was a contemporary of Washington then. Okay. How large was Stratford Hall plantation, and what was its main crop?
Well, Stratford Hall encompassed several thousand acres. It was huge, and its primary crop during Richard Henry Lee's lifetime was tobacco, which was the dominant cash revenue of colonial Virginia at that time.
Okay, where was his schooling? Was his schooling solely in Virginia, or did he ever go abroad for schooling?
Oh, he had been educated at Stratford Hall by tutors, and later he was sent to England, where he studied at Wakefield Academy. And he did not attend a university per se, but his classical and political education in England very much shaped his future statesmanship.
Now, you said he had 2 marriages. When was his first marriage, and how many children did he have with the first marriage?
Yes, he married twice, and his first marriage was Anne Eilert, and they were married in December of 1757. And his children of Anne Eilert was Thomas Lee, Ludwell Lee, Mary Lee, Hannah Lee, and Richard Lee.
Okay.
And then she died in 1768.
And then go ahead.
The second marriage. his second marriage, he married a year later in June of 1769 to Anne Gaskins. And his children was Anne Gaskins, which was Letitia Lee, Cassius Lee, Francis Lightfoot Lee II, and Arthur Lee. And so in total, he fathered 9 surviving children.
Wow.
It's like that 1776 movie where here's a Lee, there's a Lee everywhere, there's a Lee.
Yeah. Great family, yes.
There's a large family, a lot of repetitions of names.
Now, Jacqueli, you are descended from Richard Henry Lee, correct? You're a direct lineage, is that correct?
Yes, it was one of my direct lineages, and I'm his 8th great-grandniece.
From the first marriage or the second marriage?
From Anne Eilert, I believe.
Okay.
I have that chart if you want me to look it up.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Out of curiosity, Jacqueli, what was his familial relationship with Henry Lee III, a.k.a. Light Horse Harry Lee, the father of Robert Edward Lee?
He was Henry Lee III's uncle. Henry Lee III was the son of Richard's brother, Henry Lee II.
Okay. What were his relations with the other great founding fathers of Virginia? I mean, how did he get along with, like, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Patrick Henry?
Well, genealogically, they were cousins, but he worked closely with all 3, both politically and through shared Virginia heritage. His ancestral ties, Richard Henry Lee and George Washington, were related through extended Virginia gentry network, including Ball and Washington and the Lee family intermarriages. And Richard Henry Lee and Thomas Jefferson were connected through the Virginia planter aristocracy and shared kinship ties through the Randolph and Ludwell families. And Richard Henry Lee and Patrick Henry were also related through Virginia's interlinked colonial families, including the Eyelet and the Ludwell lines.
Was Richard Henry Lee active in Virginia colonial politics? Was he in the House of Burgesses?
Oh, yes. Yes. He was active in the House of Burgess since, I think, I'm looking at my notes here. He actually became president of the Continental Congress.
Yeah.
So let me look at my notes here. I know he helped with the Articles of Confederation. He returned to Congress in 1776, a month after his wife's illness, and he became the president of the Continental Congress in 1784, and before that, trying to find in my notes where he, because he started early on with the Continental Congress.
I wonder, was he instrumental for like the ordinances of 1787, which basically took care of the Midwest territories? Did he have a hand in that?
He had a hand in a lot of legislature
Okay.
that had to deal with the forming of the independence of the states and the Bill of Rights.
Yeah.
And his influence stabilized our young nation during the transitional period, and he was even there in 1787 with the Constitution. So he was a very strong influence.
Yeah. Tell me, was he? I've read reading your book. Didn't you say he was a very good orator? He was very good on the legislative floor. Arguing for things. He was a good orator.
He was a good debater. In fact, he felt very strongly about free and independent states and the exercising of that freedom. And he just, obviously, with his resolution, he gave one of the most, I think, eloquent speeches ever about the resolution, that I have never heard anything that would surpass his feelings and belief for this nation. And I don't have it memorized, but let me see if I can find it here. Would you mind if I read it?
Go ahead, please. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So when he introduced Lee Resolution, he wrote, of course, that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states, that they are absolved of all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved. And then his floor speech was, why do we longer delay? Why still deliberate? Let this happy day give birth to an American republic. Let her arise, not to devastate and not to conquer, but to reestablish the reign of peace and law. The eyes of Europe are fixed upon us. She demands of us a living example of freedom that may exhibit a contrast in the felicity of the citizen to the ever-increasing tyranny which desolates her polluted shores. She invites us to prepare an asylum where the unhappy may find solace and the persecuted repose. She entreats us to cultivate a populous soil where the generous plant which first sprung and grew in England, but is now withered by the poisonous blast of Scottish tyranny, and may revive and flourish, sheltering upon its salubrious and interminable shade, all for unfortunate of the human race. If we are not this day wanting in our duty, the names of American legislatures of 1776 will be placed by posterity at the side of Lucius, Lycurgus, and Romulus of the three Williams of Nassau, and all those whose memory has been and ever will be dear to virtuous men and good citizens. And sorry if I didn't do it justice, but I just think that is just the most beautiful, eloquent speech regarding the birth of our nation.
Involving the great Greek, legislators and political theoreticians, and I mean Lycurgus,
Yes, I believe he was a great orator and debater on the floor.
Fantastic. When the Constitution was created in 1787, did he welcome it or did he oppose it?
Well, he expressed concerns about the centralized power, and through his essays, The Federal Farmer, long attributed to him, he argued for explicit protections for individual liberty. His influence contributed to the creation of the Bill of Rights.
Okay.
So yes, he had a great influence on a lot of the legislative doings of the Congress at that time.
What year did Richard Henry Lee die?
He died actually on June 19th of 1794 at the age of 72, or 62.
Was he at Stratford Hall when he passed?
No, he was at his own plantation in Westmoreland. It was Chantilly.
Oh, okay. Where is he buried?
It was Westmoreland.
Okay.
Pardon?
Where was he buried? Where is he buried?
It's on the plantation, I believe, but the fields of, I'm trying to think of the name of it. House of Fields?
Okay. All right.
But it's buried in that at that Chantilly plantation, I believe.
Well, that's outside the greater. That's the Chantilly. That's very close. Isn't that close to like Dulles Airport, the greater D.C. area? That Chantilly.
You are asking me locations. I have never been up in that area.
Yeah.
But I know that it was in the Westmoreland, and it was such a vast plantation at the time.
Yeah.
That yes, it very much was where he called home, and he became a gentleman farmer.
Okay. Jacqueli, please tell our listeners, where can readers find this book, Richard Henry Lee and the Lee Resolution? Where can they purchase it?
If they're interested, the book is available through major online retailers, independent booksellers, and through publishing platforms where the Lee's Lost Lineages series is distributed. And you can also find information where to purchase on both of my websites, leesofvirginia.org and JacqueliFinley.com.
Okay. Just a little diversion here. I was curious, because this January of this year, you came up with this book, The Lee Surname Y-DNA Projects. What is that all about?
It's about how about 80% of the descendants from the Lees of Virginia lines, various lines, were dissected because of wrongful conclusions from Y-DNA projects. Because Y-DNA is very limited, so out of necessity, because that's what I try to champion, are reestablishing the original and historical Lee lineages down to today's descendants. But they were dissected because of wrongfully claiming haplogroups because of assigning those to certain, basically the male descendant line of Colonel Richard Lee, which, one, they don't have Colonel Richard Lee's Y-DNA to do so. Two, Y-DNA is very limited. It does not ever show a non-parental event. So if there's a broken chain of male descendant DNA in a line, it won't show up. So out of necessity, I developed my own proprietary triangulation method of autosomal DNA, and using plenty of, I have a database of donated and publicly verifiable Lee descended DNA from all the various lines, from Colonel Richard Lee and Constable. And so it can be peer-reviewed. And using tools and analyzing and using triangulation and using both female and white and male DNA, I can show the relationships, and it can be verified. So I've proven that the Y DNA was limited and it was wrong, and it's reestablished lines of descendants, like the Nancy Ruffin and Robert E. Lee line, and several other, and the William Lee line, that they are, in fact, a part of the Lees of Virginia lineages. Okay.
Beautiful.
So,
yeah. Jacqueli, do you have any future book projects? And if so, when can we expect its release?
I have a continuation of my next one, because I have a couple in the works, but the Lee's Lost Lineage series, my next major volume includes, focuses on John Lee Esquire, who has been one of the lines that has been dissected because of the poor genealogies associated, wrongful genealogies, and Y-DNA mismatches. And so I am coming out and integrating historical research with my DNA analysis method, and showing that he is part of the East Virginia line, descending from Richard Henry Lee, the son of William Lee, the son of Colonel Richard Lee. So I am very much excited to when this comes out, when I finish it, because it affects, I'd say, thousands of descendants.
Wow. Any idea when it might come out? Later this year or next year?
I'm hoping by fall. I'm just putting on some finishing touches.
Okay.
But I'm hoping by fall or sooner.
Okay. Well, I want you to be on the show again, because 7 months from now it will be the 220th anniversary of another famous bearer of the Lee name, Robert E. Lee, who was born, of course, January of 1807. I'd like to, have you on again where we could discuss his life, and your researches into his life, if that's okay with you, Jacqueli.
I would very much like that, and hopefully by then I'll have my John Lee Esquire book out.
Okay. Jacqueli, I want to thank you so much for appearing on the show, and let's celebrate American freedom, okay?
And thank you, Matthew. It's been an honor to share Richard Henry Lee's story, and that his resolution was the spark that set this America on the path to independence. So it was very important to me, and I appreciate the time that you've given me.
Well, we need to give credit where credit is due. Someone had to stand up and make that first move, to set the dominoes in motion that resulted in American freedom.
As a descendant of the Lees of Virginia, it's very important to me and personal to me, but as a forensic genealogist, it's my responsibility to keep history intact, and he's been overlooked.
Yes.
Throughout this whole anniversary. He hasn't been given the credit where credit's due. We would not have had this celebration of 250 years if he would not have debated his resolution on the floors of Congress as he did.
That's beautiful. Jacqueli, I want to thank you so much, and I wish you a very pleasant evening.
You too, and thank you again, Matthew.
You're welcome. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen, for my next show where I will be interviewing author Cap Daniels. And I'd just like to remind my listeners that my latest book, Patriarchs of the Dugout, Baseball's Greatest Managers, is available at Amazon in either paperback or Kindle form. You just go to Amazon and just type in the title, Patriarchs of the Dugout, Baseball's Greatest Managers, or just simply type in my name, Matthew DiBiase, MattheWDiBiase, and there you'll find it. And it's on sale at 25% off, and it will remain on sale. It will remain on sale until the end of the baseball season. Thank you very much, and good night.